Hello. Today we will be going through Hong Kong scoring. First, we'll discuss the most common ways to score. Then, we'll move on to more complicated hands. After that, we'll cover other ways of obtaining fan. And lastly, we'll explain the translation from fan to points. The most common ways to score are through the following methods: common hands, dragon pungs, prevalent and seat wind pungs, self-drawing, and concealed hands. Common hands are the most used and commonly seen hands in Hong Kong style scoring. We'll start with all runs, which consists fully of straights, also known as runs. Recall that a winning hand will have 4 sets and an eye, also known as a pair. So all runs hands will have 4 straights and an eye. Only the standard suits can make straights, so the sets will only consist of characters, dots, and bamboos. All runs is worth 1 fan. Next, all pungs consist fully of pungs, which is a 3 of a kind. An all pung hand will have 4 pungs and an eye, but pungs can be any tile, so the final hand can consist of any combination of suits. All pungs is worth 3 fan. Half flush consists of only 1 standard suit with the addition of any honors. The 4 required sets can be formed with any combination of straights and pungs in the standard suit or honors. As long as the winning hand only has 1 standard suit plus honors, it is a half flush. Half flush is worth 3 fan. Full flush is a hand consisting of only 1 standard suit. The hand must be made of characters, dots, or bamboo, but not a combination of them. The sets can be straights or pungs. The hand cannot have any honor tiles. Full flush is worth 6 fan. Here, we'd like to note that the fan from hands can combine and stack. We can have a half flush hand made fully of pungs that will gain 3 fan from both half flush and all pungs. This, of course, is a specific example, but many hands can combine to become much stronger, which is important due to the scoring structure of Hong Kong style. We will discuss this more later on. Fan can also come from the existence of specific honor pungs within a hand. The most basic is a dragon pung. If a player has any dragon pungs, they are granted 1 additional fan for each dragon pung in their winning hand. Winds can also grant additional fan, but it depends on the player and the context. Players can be granted additional fan for having a pung of the wind that corresponds with their seat, as denoted in the heavenly compass. Dealers are in the 1 seat, so a dealer that wins with a pung of east will be granted 1 additional fan. Prevalent winds are shared among the table and are determined before the hand starts. Typically, the prevalent wind stays the same for an entire round of hands, and any player with a pung of the prevalent wind will gain 1 additional fan to their winning hand. If the prevalent wind and seat wind are the same for a player, that player would earn 2 additional fan from having a pung of that wind. Players commonly get additional fan for certain winning conditions, which is the context of the winning player receiving their final tile. Self-drawing the winning tile is the most common winning condition that gives 1 additional fan and modifies payout, which we will discuss later on. Concealed hand is another common winning condition that grants 1 additional fan to a winning hand if no steals were made until the final tile. To restate, the player must win without calling any sets from other players. The winning player is permitted to steal the final tile to win. That concludes the most common ways to score fan in Hong Kong style. We will now move on to less common hands. Firstly, we have all honors, which is a hand of only honor tiles. Since honor tiles can only make pungs, this hand implies all pung score. However, all honors is a limit hand, which means it is the maximum possible score of 10 fan. All honors can consist of any combination of dragons and winds. All terminals is a hand that only contains terminal tiles, which are 1s and 9s in the standard suits. All terminals is also a limit hand, so it is worth 10 fan. All terminals can consist of any combination of terminals. All Kong consists of 4 Kongs, which are 4 of a kinds. Kongs can still count as a single set, so the final hand will still have 4 sets and an eye. All Kongs is a limit hand worth 10 fan. Keep in mind that declaring a Kong requires players to draw a replacement tile from the back wall to ensure their hand is the correct size. We will now go over the special hands, which have more unique and complex requirements. 7 pairs is the most common of the special hands. 7 pairs, as the name implies, consists of 7 pairs, which will compose a winning hand of 14 total tiles. Since there are no sets, no steals can be made unless it is the final tile to win. If a player has 4 copies of the same tile, it can be used as 2 separate pairs as long as it is not called for a Kong. 7 pairs is worth 4 fan and is typically used as a pivot from all pungs when players are not getting the tiles they need. 13 Orphans is an exceptionally unique hand that contains all 6 unique terminals, all 7 unique honor tiles, plus 1 more orphan, which is terminal or honor. Since there are no sets, no steals can be made unless it is for the final tile to win. 13 Orphans is a limit hand worth 10 fan. 9 Gates is another unique hand that has specific requirements. The hand consists of 3 1s, 1 of every tile 2 through 8, 3 9s, and 1 additional tile from a standard suit. The requirements are specific because a perfect 9 Gates will be able to take any tile 1 through 9 to win. 9 Gates must be concealed, but players may steal the last tile to win. Let's look at an example of how 9 Gates works. Suppose we have 3 1s, 2 through 8, and 3 9s in dots. Then we can see that adding any tile 1 through 9 will lead to a win. First, we add an additional 1 dot. Then, our total sets are 1 dot Pung, 2 3 4 straight, 5 6 7 straight, and 7 8 9 straight. And our I is the 9 9 dot. Next, we'll try adding a 5 dot. Then we'll have 1 dot Pung, 2 3 4 straight, 6 7 8 straight, 9 dot Pung, and an I of 5 dots. Finally, we add a 7 dot. Then, our sets are a 1 dot Pung, 2 3 4 straight, 5 6 7 straight, and a 7 8 9 straight, and our I is the 9 9 dot. Ruby, Pearl, and Jade Dragon are special combinations of all Pung and half flush. The hand consists of a Pung of red, white, and green dragon with Pungs and an eye in characters, dots, and bamboo respectively. To reiterate, the hand will consist of a dragon Pung, 3 Pungs of their respective suit, and an eye in the respective suit. Ruby, Pearl, and Jade Dragon is a limit hand worth 10 fan. Ruby Dragon is the hand that uses red dragon and characters. Pearl Dragon uses white dragon and dots. Jade Dragon uses green dragon and bamboo. Hidden Treasures is a concealed hand, which means no steals can be made. This hand is a concealed all Pung, so players must collect all 4 Pungs through draws. A steal can be made for a win if and only if it is the last tile needed to complete an I. If a player is waiting for the 4th Pung, a steal for a win cannot be made. Hidden Treasures is a limit hand worth 10 fan. Big 4 Wins is a special hand that contains a Pung of all 4 wins. The eye can be made from any other tile. Big 4 Wins is a limit hand worth 10 fan. Little 4 Wins consists of 3 Pungs of any 3 wins, plus an eye of the final win. The last set can be any set. Little 4 Wins is worth 6 fan, but will gain points from either all Pung, half flush, or all honors due to the structure of the hand. This means the minimum value of Little 4 Wins is 9 fan, but players can also gain fan from prevalent and seat win Pungs. Big 3 Dragons is a special hand that contains a Pung of all 3 dragons. The last set can be any set, and the eye can be made of any tile. Big 3 Dragons is worth 8 fan, and the points from Dragon Pung are implied. Little 3 Dragons consists of 2 Pungs of any 2 dragons plus an eye of the final dragon. The last 2 sets can be any 2 sets. Little 3 Dragons is worth 4 fan, and the points from Dragon Pung are implied. Additional fan can come from 3 distinct sources: the condition of the win, the existing melds in the hand, and bonus tiles scored after a win. It is important to note that for a minimum fan requirement, winning condition and existing melds count towards the minimum fan, but bonus tiles do not because they are scored after a win has been declared. The condition of a win is determined by how the winning player gets the final tile. We discussed the most common winning conditions of self-draw and concealed hands, so review earlier sections if necessary. Winning on the last tile drawn or last tile discarded will grant 1 additional fan. If a player draws the last tile to win, they are granted the additional fan from both self-draw and out on last tile. When a player wins off the last possible discarded tile, they are only granted additional fan from out on last tile. Out on robbing a Kong occurs when a player declares a Kong on an open Pung and the winning player steals this tile for the win. This grants additional fan. This is a unique situation that is typically quite rare, but has some conditions to occur. Firstly, a losing player must have an open Pung created from stealing a tile. Then, they must draw the 4th tile of their Pung and decide to create a Kong by declaring that tile. Then, the winning player must steal this tile for the win. Out on replacement tile grants 1 additional fan when a player wins off a replacement tile. This can be from declaring a Kong or replacing a flower season. Out on double replacement tile grants 1 additional fan on top of the initial 1 fan bonus. This occurs when a player needs to draw 2 or more replacement tiles and wins off the second tile or further. Heavenly and Earthly Hands occur when a player wins a hand on or before their first draw. Heavenly Hand occurs when the dealer wins on their opening hand after replacing all necessary tiles. Earthly Hand occurs when a non-dealer wins their hand prior to or on their first draw. Both cases grant 10 fan, regardless of the contents of the winning hand. Players can get additional fan from the existence of certain melds within their hands. We covered dragon pungs, prevalent winds, and seat winds earlier, so review those sections if necessary. Mixed orphans is granted to hands when the hand consists solely of honors and terminals. Mixed orphans grants 1 additional fan. Any hand that has mixed orphans is all pungs by construction. Bonus tiles can grant additional fan, but they only apply after a win, so they do not count towards a minimum fan requirement. For example, if the minimum fan is 2 and the current hand is worth 1 fan, having fan from a bonus tile will not allow the player to go out. Having a flower or season will grant 1 additional fan after a win if the number matches the seat number. The flowers and seasons are numbered 1 through 4 and correspond with specific seat numbers. Having a flower or season that is not the player's seat number will not grant any fan. Having all 4 flowers or all 4 seasons will grant 2 additional fan after a win. The flowers and seasons are typically colored differently to help players make a distinction between the tiles. Obtaining all 4 flowers and all 4 seasons will grant 8 additional fan after a win. Finally, having no flowers and no seasons in a winning hand will grant 1 additional fan following the win. Scoring in Hong Kong style is a direct translation from fan to points, which is paid out depending on if a player won off a discard or by self-drawing their final tile. Looking at the scoring translation table, we see that the points gained from fan doubles for each increment until 4 to 6 fan and 7 to 9 fan, which hold the same value in their categories. This tells us that getting an additional fan in your hand generally doubles the value of your hand. The payout of points is determined by how the winning tile was obtained. When a player wins by discard, the player who discarded the winning tile will pay double the chip value, while all other losing players will pay the base chip value. When a player wins by self-draw, all losing players will pay double the chip value. Recall that self-drawing provides an additional fan to winning hands, so self-drawing can greatly increase the value of hands. For example, a hand worth 3 fan won off a discard will pay 32 points in total. If that same hand was won off a self-draw, it would now be worth 4 fan and will pay 96 points in total, tripling the value of the hand. Only 1 player can win a hand. If multiple players call a win on a tile simultaneously, the win goes to the player closest in turn to the discard. For example, if the dealer discards a 1 dot that can be used by both players in seat 2 and seat 4 to win, seat 2 will get the win assuming both players call for a win simultaneously. This is because seat 2 acts immediately after the dealer, which is before seat 4. This sums up the scoring methods of Hong Kong style. We will be back soon with a strategy video to teach players basic strategy for hands.